The first scream came through the police radio, before we even reached the woods. Not a call. Not words. A scream. It burst from the speakers so loud that Deputy Miles nearly drove the cruiser off the road. The headlights jumped across the trees, catching them for half a second like pale hands reaching out of the dark. Then came a voice. A man's voice, shaking so hard it barely sounded human. Do not send help. Do not send help. It follows the lights. The radio cracked. Then everything went silent. Deputy Miles looked at me. I looked at the road ahead. And that was when something slammed into the back of our cruiser. The whole car launched forward. My forehead hit the dashboard. The siren wailed once by itself, then died. Miles cursed, grabbing the wheel as we skidded sideways across the wet mountain road. Behind us, in the rearview mirror, there was nothing. No truck. No car. No headlights. Only the black road and the pine trees bending in the storm. Then the back window exploded inward. A long bone-white arm punched through the glass. Its fingers were too thin, too many joints. The nails scraped across the metal cage behind our seats with a sound like knives on teeth. Miles screamed and hit the gas. The cruiser roared forward. The arm pulled back into the darkness, leaving rain and broken glass spraying across the seats. What the hell was that? I shouted. Miles didn't answer. He just stared ahead, face pale, knuckles white on the wheel. The road sign flashed past in the headlights. Black Pine Road, mile 19. That was where the first missing person had been found. Or what was left of him. 3 hikers had vanished there last week. Then 2 state troopers. Then a search and rescue volunteer who radioed in one final message before his GPS stopped moving. They're wearing our faces. Nobody believed it. Not really. Until tonight. Miles and I had been sent to check on an abandoned ranger station, deep inside Black Pine Forest, after a 911 call came from a phone that belonged to one of the missing troopers. The caller only whispered one sentence. Tell my wife I'm still running. That trooper had been missing for 6 days. No food. No shelter. Freezing rain every night. No one survives 6 days in Black Pine unless something keeps them alive. Or something refuses to let them die. Miles turned the cruiser around a bend so fast the tires screamed. Rain hammered the windshield. The wipers moved like broken arms, barely clearing the glass. Then a woman appeared in the road. Miles slammed the brakes. The cruiser spun sideways and stopped inches from her. She stood barefoot in the rain, wearing a torn yellow hiking jacket. Her hair hung across her face. Her arms were wrapped around herself like she was freezing. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out. Ma'am, Sheriff's Department, are you hurt? She didn't move. Miles got out from the driver's side, pistol raised. The forest was too quiet. No insects. No wind. Only rain. I moved closer. Ma'am, can you hear me? Her head twitched. Not lifted. Twitching, like something inside her neck had pulled a wire. Then she spoke in a little girl's voice. Lights off. Miles whispered, what? The woman's head snapped up. Her face was wrong. Not damaged. Wrong. Her eyes were too far apart. Her smile stretched wider than the skin should allow. And behind that smile, something moved under her cheeks like insects crawling beneath paper. She whispered again. Lights off. The cruiser headlights flickered. Once. Twice. Then the forest behind her lit up. Hundreds of eyes opened between the trees. Miles fired. The woman flew backward, but before she hit the ground, her body twisted in the air like a puppet yanked by strings. She landed on all fours, bones cracking, face still smiling. Then she screamed. The eyes in the trees rushed toward us. "Get in," Miles shouted. We dove into the cruiser. Something hit the roof so hard the ceiling caved in above my head. Claws scraped across the metal. Another shape slammed into the side window, cracking it into a spider web. Miles floored it. The cruiser shot forward, clipping the thing in the road. It rolled over the hood, slapped against the windshield, and for one horrible second its face pressed against the glass. It was wearing the woman's face. But underneath, I saw another mouth open inside the first mouth. A deep black hole full of needle teeth. The wipers dragged across its face and smeared gray flesh over the glass. Miles jerked the wheel. The thing slid off and disappeared under the tires. We didn't stop. Branches whipped the windows. The road narrowed. The map on the dashboard showed the ranger station less than 2 miles ahead. Then the radio came alive again. This time it was Miles' voice. But Miles was sitting right beside me. "Deputy Miles requesting backup," the radio said calmly. "Officer down. Send more units to Black Pine Road." Miles stared at the radio like it had insulted God. "That's not me," he whispered. The voice continued. "Send lights, send sirens, send everyone." Then it began laughing. A perfect copy of Miles' laugh. A laugh I had heard 100 times at the station. But now it came through the radio slow, broken and hungry. Miles grabbed the radio and ripped the wires out. The laughing didn't stop. It kept coming from the speakers. Then from the back seat. I turned. Something was sitting behind the metal cage. A man in a soaked police uniform. No eyes. No lips. Just Miles' face stretched over a skull that was not human. Miles screamed and swerved. The cruiser smashed through a wooden barrier and crashed down a muddy slope. Trees exploded against the front bumper. The airbags blew open. My body snapped forward. Glass rained over me. For a moment, there was only ringing. Then fire. The engine smoked. The front of the cruiser had wrapped around a tree. The headlights pointed sideways into the forest, cutting through the rain. Miles was bleeding from his temple, trying to open his door. "Move," he groaned. "Move now." I kicked my door open and fell into the mud. The forest smelled like wet leaves, gasoline, and something rotten underneath. A siren began to rise behind us. But our cruiser was dead. No lights. No power. Still the siren wailed. Low at first. Then louder. From deep in the trees. Miles grabbed the shotgun from the trunk. I took the emergency flare gun and 2 flares from the side kit. We started running uphill toward the ranger station, guided by a blinking red tower light above the trees. Behind us, branches snapped. Fast. Too fast. Miles fired into the dark. The shotgun blast lit the trees for a split second. In that flash, I saw at least 6 shapes crawling over the ground. Some ran like people. Some moved like spiders. One wore a ranger hat. One wore a child's backpack. All of them had human faces stretched too tightly over something underneath. We ran. The siren followed. Not from one place. From every direction. It sounded like an ambulance drowning underwater. Then a voice boomed through the forest. My mother's voice. "Daniel, stop running." I froze. My mother had been dead for 9 years. Miles grabbed my jacket and dragged me forward. "Do not listen." The voice called again, closer. "Daniel, I'm hurt, please." My legs almost stopped working. That voice had tucked me into bed as a kid. That voice had said goodbye from a hospital bed. That voice had never once called me Daniel unless she was scared. Miles slapped me across the face. "That thing knows voices. Keep moving." A shape dropped from the trees in front of us. Miles fired. It jumped backward and landed on a branch, clinging upside down. Its head turned all the way around. It had the face of one of the missing troopers. Trooper Hale. Only his jaw hung open too wide, swinging loose like a broken gate. "Officer," it said in Hale's voice, "I found the way out." Miles pumped the shotgun. "No, you didn't." He fired again. The thing vanished into the dark. Then the entire forest started speaking. Dozens of voices. Men, women, children, police officers, missing hikers, all whispering from the trees. "Help me. Come here. I'm still alive. Turn on your light. Look at me. Send backup. Send more." We reached the ranger station breathless and soaked. The building sat crooked on the hill, surrounded by old trucks, broken searchlights, and yellow police tape flapping in the rain. The front door was hanging open. Inside, every light was on. That was impossible. The station had no power. Miles raised the shotgun. We stepped in. The place looked like a war zone, radios smashed, maps torn from the walls, bullet holes everywhere. Blood dragged across the floor toward the basement door. On the main desk sat 5 police radios. All turned on. All whispering. I recognized some of the voices. Missing officers. Dispatchers. My own voice. My own voice was saying, "I'm already dead." Miles swept the room with his flashlight. "Basement," he said. "No. We need the satellite phone. It's stored down there." A crash came from outside. Then another. Something was hitting the walls. The windows shook. The lights buzzed. Miles ran to the basement door and kicked it open. A smell crawled up from below, so strong I gagged. Rot, wet fur, old blood, and cold metal. We went down. The basement was larger than it should have been. Concrete walls, storage shelves, emergency supplies, boxes marked with county seals. At the far end, beside the satellite phone locker, someone had carved words into the wall with a knife. "IT kill you first. It learns you first." Miles broke open the locker and grabbed the satellite phone. The moment he turned it on, every radio upstairs screamed at once. Then the basement door slammed shut. We ran back to it. "Locked." From the other side, someone whispered. Miles' voice. "Open up." Miles lifted the shotgun. The voice outside laughed. Then my flashlight caught something behind the shelves. A man sat in the corner. Alive. Barely. Trooper Hale. The real one. His uniform was torn. His face was pale. His hands were tied with electrical wire. His lips were cracked from dehydration. Miles rushed to him. Hale, stay with me." Trooper Hale opened one eye. "Don't untie me," he whispered. "What?" He looked at me. It only copies what it understands. Pain, voices, faces, memories, but it needs time. His breathing hitched. It keeps us alive so it can learn. Above us, footsteps crossed the floor. Slow. Heavy. More than 2 legs. Hale grabbed Miles' sleeve. "You brought lights." Miles didn't answer. Hale started crying. "It follows lights." The basement lights went out. Darkness swallowed everything. Then something breathed behind me. I fired the flare gun. Red light exploded through the basement. The creature was hanging from the ceiling. It was massive. Not like the smaller things outside. This one filled the whole room with long limbs folded against the walls. Its body was wrapped in pieces of clothing from all the missing people. Jackets, uniforms, backpacks, badges, wedding rings tied into its skin like trophies. Its head was made of faces. Not one face. Many, shifting across its skull like masks underwater. My mother's face appeared. Then Miles' face. Then mine. It smiled with all of them. Miles fired the shotgun. The blast tore into its shoulder. Black fluid splashed across the wall. The creature screamed in every voice it had stolen. The sound punched through my skull. I fell to my knees. Shelves collapsed. Cans rolled across the floor. Hale screamed, "Fire, it hates fire." I grabbed another flare, struck it, and shoved it toward the creature. It recoiled, limbs snapping backward, faces melting into rage. Miles grabbed Hale and cut the wires. "Move." We dragged Hale toward a small storm hatch in the back wall. Miles kicked it open, and cold rain blasted in. We crawled through into the mud outside the station. Behind us, the creature smashed through the basement wall. Concrete burst outward. One of its arms caught Hale by the leg. Hale screamed. Miles turned and fired his last shell into the creature's hand. It dropped Hale, and I pulled him free. We ran for the old service truck parked near the tower. The keys were still inside. Miles threw Hale into the back seat. I climbed in front. Miles hit the ignition. The engine coughed. Nothing. The creature pulled itself out of the broken basement wall, unfolding higher and higher in the rain. Its faces looked at us. Every single one. Miles turned the key again. The engine roared alive. "Geo," I shouted. Miles slammed the truck into reverse, smashed through a fence, then spun toward the access road. The creature chased us. Not running. Galloping. Its limbs hammered the ground, tearing mud and roots into the air. Smaller things poured from the forest behind it, wearing stolen faces, shrieking like sirens. Miles drove straight through them. One hit the hood. Another cracked the windshield. A third landed in the truck bed and crawled toward the rear window. Hale turned, grabbed a road flare from the emergency box, and jammed it into the thing's mouth. Red fire filled its skull. It dropped away screaming. The access road curved along a cliff edge. The rain had turned the dirt into black grease. The truck slid dangerously close to the drop. Behind us, the creature stopped chasing. For 1 second, I thought we had escaped. Then the truck radio switched on by itself. My mother's voice whispered through the speaker. "Daniel, your father never told you the truth." I froze. Miles yelled, "Break it." But the voice continued. He saw it too. That's why he drove into the lake. My heart stopped. My father's death had been ruled an accident. I was 13. The truck hit a pothole so hard my head struck the window. The voice changed. Now it was my father. "Son, I'm sorry." The road ahead filled with headlights. A police cruiser blocked the way. Then another. Then another. 6 patrol cars sat across the road, lights flashing red and blue in the rain. Officers stood in front of them. Motionless. Miles slowed. "No," Hale whispered from the back. The officers all raised their heads at the same time. Every single one had Miles' face. They smiled. Miles didn't hesitate. He floored it. The service truck smashed into the first cruiser. Metal screamed. Glass exploded. One false officer bounced off the hood and vanished under the wheels. The truck broke through the blockade and shot back onto Black Pine Road. The county line was 3 miles ahead. 3 miles. That was when the siren rose behind us again. Closer. Louder. The creature had climbed onto the road. It stretched itself between the trees like a nightmare made of bone and skin, moving above the ground now, swinging from trunk to trunk. Then it leaped. It landed on the roof. The truck crushed downward. Miles fought the wheel. Hale screamed. A long finger punched through the roof and hooked around Miles' shoulder. He cried out, trying to keep control. I grabbed the flare gun, loaded the last flare, and aimed upward through the broken roof. The creature's face lowered into the hole. But it wasn't a monster's face. It was mine. My own face stared back at me, pale and smiling. It spoke in my voice. "Shoot me, Daniel." So I did. The flare blasted into its mouth. Red fire exploded inside its head. The creature screamed so violently every window in the truck shattered. Miles slammed the brakes. The monster rolled off the roof and crashed onto the road in front of us, burning, twisting, faces splitting open in the flames. Miles shouted, "Hold on." He drove straight over it. The truck bucked like we had hit a wall. Something burst underneath. The steering failed. We slid across the road, smashed through a guardrail and launched down a slope. The world flipped. Mud, glass, rain, metal, then silence. When I opened my eyes, the truck was upside down in a ditch. Miles was unconscious beside me. Hale was crawling out of the back, dragging one broken leg behind him. I cut Miles free and pulled him through the window. Above us, on the road, something was still burning. The creature. It should have been dead. Nothing could survive that. Then the burning shape stood up. It staggered at first, then straightened. The flames died across its body, leaving black skin and glowing cracks beneath. All its stolen faces had burned away. Now there was only the thing underneath. No eyes. No nose. Just a vertical mouth running from its forehead to its chest. And inside that mouth, thousands of voices whispered together. "Send more." Miles woke up coughing. Hale crawled beside him and pressed the satellite phone into my hand. "Call it in," he gasped. "Tell them no lights, no sirens, burn the whole road." I dialed dispatch. Static. Then a woman answered. "County Dispatch, what is your emergency?" I looked up. The creature stepped down the slope toward us. One slow step at a time. "This is Officer Daniel Reyes," I said, voice shaking. "Black Pine Road, mile 19. 3 officers alive. We need extraction. No lights, no sirens. Bring fire units, heavy fire units." The dispatcher went silent. Then she said, "Officer Reyes, we already sent backup." My blood went cold. "When?" 10 minutes ago. From far away, beyond the trees, I heard them. Sirens. Dozens of them. Police. Ambulance. Fire trucks. All screaming toward Black Pine Road. The creature stopped. Its head turned toward the sound. Then its mouth opened wider than any living thing should open. It smiled without a face. Miles whispered, "Oh God." Red and blue lights began flashing through the forest. The creature looked back at us. Not angry. Excited. Then it ran toward the sirens. We chased it. I don't know why. Maybe because we knew what would happen if those units arrived blind. Maybe because fear had burned out of us and only survival remained. Hale stayed behind, too injured to move, while Miles and I climbed the slope after that thing. We reached the road just as the first patrol car came around the bend. I ran into the middle of the road, waving my arms. "Cut the lights, cut the lights." The patrol car slowed. Too late. The creature dropped from the trees onto its roof, crushing it flat. Another cruiser swerved and crashed. Officers shouted. Guns fired. Lights flashed wildly through the rain. And every flash made more things appear. They came from both sides of the road. From the trees. From ditches. From beneath abandoned cars. Dozens of copped faces. Hikers, rangers, police, children, dead people, missing people, people who were still screaming with voices that were not theirs anymore. Miles grabbed a fuel can from the crashed patrol car. I grabbed flares from the emergency kit. We didn't have a plan. We had fire. Miles poured gasoline across the road while bullets snapped through the rain around us. I lit flare after flare and threw them into the spreading fuel. The road caught fire in a bright orange wave. The smaller creatures shrieked and scattered. The big one turned. Its body was half hidden behind smoke and rain. It saw me. Then it spoke in my father's voice one last time. "Son, come home." I walked toward it with the final flare burning in my hand. Miles shouted behind me, but his voice sounded far away. The creature leaned down, mouth opening, all those voices begging, laughing, crying. I let it come close. Close enough to smell the rot inside it. Close enough to see my own reflection in the wet black skin of its face. Then I shoved the flare into its chest. Miles fired a shot into the fuel can. The explosion threw me across the road. For 1 second, the whole forest became daylight. The creature burned from the inside out. Its voices rose together in one massive scream that shook the mountain. Trees cracked. Car windows exploded. The road split open beneath it. Then silence dropped so hard it felt like the world had gone deaf. When I woke, dawn was pushing through the smoke. Black Pine Road was covered in ash. The backup units were destroyed. But some officers had survived. Miles was alive. Hale was alive. And the thing was gone. At least that's what the report said. They closed Mile 19 forever after that. Poured concrete barriers across both ends, put up warning signs, called it a landslide risk. Nobody mentioned the bodies. Nobody mentioned the voices on the radios. Nobody mentioned that every survivor heard someone they loved calling from the trees. 3 weeks later, I resigned. Miles never came back to work. Hale moved out of state and stopped answering calls. As for me, I tried to forget Black Pine. I sold my house. Changed my number. Stopped driving at night. For almost a year, nothing happened. Then last night at 2:13 a.m., my old police radio turned on in the garage. I hadn't touched it since I left the department. At first, there was only static. Then a siren. Very faint. Very far away. Then my own voice came through. Calm. Clear. Smiling. Officer Ray's requesting backup. I stood frozen in the doorway, unable to breathe. The voice continued. Send lights. A pause. Then it whispered. Send everyone. Outside my house, deep in the dark street, something answered with my mother's laugh. The body cam turned on by itself. That was the first warning. Officer Marcus Vale was standing outside the old county courthouse, rain dripping from the brim of his hat, one hand resting on his pistol, the other holding a flashlight that kept flickering like something was breathing on the battery. His partner, Officer Jenna Cross, looked at him and said, "Your camera is recording." Marcus looked down. The red light was blinking. He hadn't touched it. Then a voice came through the police radio. Not dispatch. Not another officer. A child. Unit 6, please hurry. Marcus froze. Jenna slowly reached for her radio. Dispatch, confirm last transmission. Static. Then the child whispered again. It's wearing my dad. Jenna's face went pale. The abandoned courthouse stood in front of them like a dead monument, windows shattered, white pillars stained black by years of rain and neglect. No one had used the building since the fire in 1998, when a prisoner transport van crashed outside and burned with 6 inmates locked inside. But tonight, 911 received a call from inside the building. A little girl said her father was trapped in courtroom B. Then the call cut off with a man screaming in the background. Marcus lifted his flashlight toward the front doors. They were already open. Jenna whispered, "No cars, no footprints, no sign anyone came in." Marcus swallowed. "Then we clear it fast and get out." They stepped inside. The courthouse smelled like wet ash. Their boots crunched over broken glass and old papers scattered across the marble floor. The beam of Marcus's flashlight swept across burned walls, collapsed benches, and a line of rusted prisoner shackles still bolted near the holding area. Then a loud bang echoed from upstairs. Both officers raised their pistols. "Sheriff's Department," Marcus shouted, "call out." Silence. Then another bang. Closer. A door slammed open above them, and something heavy began running down the stairs. Fast. Too fast. Jenna aimed at the staircase. "Show me your hands." A man came sprinting out of the darkness. His uniform was torn. His face was covered in blood. His eyes were wide with a kind of fear Marcus had never seen on another officer. It was Deputy Arnold. He had gone missing 2 nights ago while responding to a domestic call 6 miles away. "Help me," Arnold screamed. Marcus rushed forward, but Jenna grabbed his arm. "Wait." Arnold stopped halfway down the stairs. His chest was rising and falling, but he wasn't breathing. Not really. His mouth moved with the sound of breath, but his body was too still. Jenna raised her pistol higher. "Arnold, what's your badge number?" Arnold smiled. It was small at first, then wider. Too wide. His lips split at the corners. His jaw dropped with a wet crack. And from inside his throat came the little girl's voice. "Unit 6, please hurry." Arnold's body launched down the stairs. Marcus fired. Jenna fired. The hallway exploded with gunshots. Arnold's body jerked and twisted but kept coming, arms swinging like broken ropes. He slammed into Marcus and threw him across the floor. Marcus hit an old bench so hard the wood snapped beneath him. Jenna fired 3 rounds into Arnold's back. Arnold turned toward her. His neck twisted all the way around. The front of his body was still facing Marcus, but his head was now looking at Jenna. Then his spine cracked, folded backward, and he ran at her on all 4s. Jenna screamed and kicked him in the face. Marcus grabbed his taser and fired. The probes hit Arnold's neck. Electricity snapped through his body. For 1 second, his skin flickered like something underneath it was moving. Then his mouth opened, and black smoke poured out. The smoke screamed. Marcus grabbed Jenna and pulled her toward the front doors. "Out now." They ran. Behind them, Arnold's body hit the wall, climbed it like an insect, and crawled across the ceiling. The front doors slammed shut. "Locked." Jenna kicked them. "Nothing." Marcus shot the lock. The bullet sparked off the metal, but the doors didn't move. From the ceiling above them, Arnold whispered, "Court is in session." All the lights in the courthouse turned on. Every burned chandelier. Every emergency bulb. Every courtroom lamp. The building, abandoned for almost 30 years, lit up like someone had been waiting for them. Then the loudspeaker cracked. A deep voice filled the courthouse. "All rise." The floor shook. Doors opened down every hallway. And from every doorway, prisoners stepped out. Burned men. 6 of them. Their orange jumpsuits were melted into their skin. Their wrists were still chained. Their faces were blackened, but their eyes burned white in the dark. Jenna's breathing shook. Marcus grabbed his radio. "Dispatch, officers under attack, courthouse, send backup." Static. Then dispatch answered in his own voice. "Backup already inside." The burned prisoners charged. Marcus and Jenna ran toward the security office. Gunshots thundered through the hall. Marcus fired at the first prisoner's knees. The leg snapped backward, but the prisoner dragged himself forward with his hands, laughing through burned teeth. Jenna grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall and smashed it into another prisoner's skull. The head folded sideways, but the thing still reached for her, chains whipping. Marcus kicked open the security office door. They dove inside and slammed it shut. A chain smashed through the small window. Jenna shoved a filing cabinet against the door. Marcus turned and saw old CCTV monitors glowing on the desk. Every screen showed a different part of the courthouse. The lobby, the cells, the stairs, courtroom A, courtroom B, and on the final screen, Marcus saw himself, standing in the hallway. Only he wasn't in the hallway. He was inside the security office, looking at the monitor. The fake Marcus on the screen slowly turned toward the camera, then smiled. Jenna looked over his shoulder. "What is that?" The fake Marcus lifted a radio to his mouth. The radio on Marcus's shoulder crackled. His own voice whispered from it. "Open the door, Jenna." Jenna stepped back from Marcus like he had become dangerous. "That's not me," Marcus said. The door shook as the prisoners slammed into it. The filing cabinet moved an inch. Then another. Jenna checked her magazine. 6 rounds. Marcus checked his. 4. The child's voice came again from the monitor. "Help me." Courtroom B appeared on the screen. A little girl sat in the witness chair. Her hair was wet, her face was dirty, her hands were tied with black cable. Behind her stood a tall man in a judge's robe. His face was hidden beneath an old white mask. Marcus leaned closer. The girl looked straight into the security camera. "Officer Vale, he's going to make me say guilty." Marcus's blood turned cold. Jenna stared at him. She said, "Your name." The door cracked. One burned hand pushed through. Jenna fired into it. The hand burst apart into ash, but the door kept shaking. Marcus looked around the room and spotted an air vent above the lockers. "Vent, move." He boosted Jenna up first, then climbed after her as the office door exploded inward beneath them. The burned prisoners poured into the room, looking up with glowing eyes. Marcus and Jenna crawled through the duct, metal bending under their weight. Below them, something dragged chains across the floor, following their path. Jenna whispered, "This is not a rescue call, this is a trap." Marcus didn't answer. Because ahead of them, inside the vent, someone was crawling toward them. A police officer. Upside down. His chest scraped along the top of the duct, head hanging backward, arms bending the wrong way. It was Officer Phelps. Another missing cop. His eyes had been sewn shut with black thread. He smiled. Backup arrived. Jenna screamed and fired. The gunshot inside the vent deafened Marcus. Phelps lunged. Marcus kicked him in the face again and again as Jenna crawled backward. Phelps grabbed Marcus's boot and pulled hard. Marcus slammed onto his stomach, his pistol sliding out of reach. The vent tore open. Marcus and Phelps fell through the ceiling. They crashed into courtroom A. Marcus landed hard on a table, pain ripping through his ribs. Phelps landed on the floor, then stood up in a way no human body should. His head hung to one side, but his mouth kept moving. "Guilty," he whispered. Jenna dropped from the ceiling, and fired her last rounds into Phelps. He stumbled but didn't fall. Marcus grabbed the judge's gavel from the bench and smashed it into Phelps's face. Once, twice, 3 times. The face caved in like wet clay. Still, Phelps grabbed him by the throat. Marcus's vision darkened. Then Jenna drove a broken chair leg through Phelps's chest. Black smoke burst from the wound. Phelps screamed. Not a man's scream. A siren. A courthouse alarm. 1,000 prisoners screaming inside one body. Marcus grabbed Jenna and ran. They entered the main corridor, but the courthouse had changed. The hallway was longer now. Too long. The walls were lined with old case files, each one nailed open. Photographs, arrest reports, death certificates. Marcus saw his own name on one file. Officer Marcus Vale, cause of death, unknown. Jenna grabbed the paper and ripped it down. Don't look at it. Then the floor beneath them shook. The courtroom doors at the end of the hall opened. Inside courtroom B, the little girl screamed. Marcus ran toward it. Jenna shouted, "Marcus, wait." But he didn't stop. He kicked open the doors. Courtroom B was packed. Every seat was filled with dead people. Victims, prisoners, missing officers, burned bodies, all sitting silently, watching the front of the room. The little girl was in the witness chair. The masked judge stood behind the bench. He was impossibly tall, almost touching the ceiling. His robe dragged across the floor, but beneath it Marcus saw feet that were not human. Long, pale, split down the middle like hooves. The judge turned his masked face toward Marcus. "Officer Vale," he said, "you have been called as witness." Jenna stepped in beside Marcus, pistol raised though empty. "Let the girl go." The judge lifted one long finger. The doors slammed shut behind them. Every dead person in the courtroom stood up. Marcus aimed his gun. 2 rounds left. The judge leaned forward. "You came with badge, you came with gun, you came with law." His voice shook the walls. But law burned here. The dead audience began whispering. "Guilty, guilty, guilty." The little girl looked at Marcus, tears running down her face. But Marcus noticed something. Her feet didn't touch the floor. Not because she was small, because she was floating 1 inch above the chair. Jenna noticed it too. Her face hardened. "She's not real." The girl stopped crying. Slowly she smiled. The judge laughed. The little girl's skin split down the middle like paper tearing. Something crawled out of her shape. Small, pale, spider-like, wearing pieces of a child's face like a mask. Jenna grabbed Marcus and pulled him back as the thing leaped at him. Marcus fired. The creature exploded against the witness stand, black smoke splattering the wall. The entire courtroom screamed. The dead audience rushed them. Marcus and Jenna fought through them with fists, elbows, broken wood, anything they could grab. A burned inmate grabbed Jenna's vest and lifted her off the ground. Marcus smashed the inmate's knee with a fallen microphone stand, then shoved him into the jury box. Jenna pulled a knife from her boot and slashed through a set of burning chains wrapped around Marcus's neck. The judge watched, waiting. Marcus saw the emergency exit behind the bench. "Back door," he shouted. They ran straight at the judge. The judge lifted his hand. The floorboards split open. Hands reached up from beneath the courtroom, grabbing at their legs. Marcus stomped through them. Jenna jumped onto a table and ran across it as bodies below tried to pull her down. The judge swung his arm. The bench exploded. Wood shards flew like knives. One cut Marcus across the cheek. Another buried itself in Jenna's shoulder. She cried out but kept moving. Marcus fired his last round at the judge's mask. The bullet cracked it. Underneath, there was no face, only a dark hole full of moving teeth. The judge screamed and recoiled. Jenna kicked open the emergency door. They burst into a back hallway and found themselves near the holding cells. The air was hotter here. The walls were sweating black water. At the end of the corridor, a steel door was marked. Prisoner Transfer Bay. The same place where the 6 inmates burned alive. Marcus's radio crackled. Real dispatch this time. Unit 6, respond. Multiple backup units arriving in 2 minutes. Marcus grabbed the radio. No, tell them stay back. Do not enter the building. Static swallowed his voice. Then another voice came through. The judge. Send them in. Outside, sirens approached. Jenna grabbed Marcus's arm. If backup comes inside, this thing gets more bodies. Marcus looked at the transfer bay. Old gasoline cans, rusted maintenance tools, emergency flare boxes. An idea hit him. We burn it out. Jenna stared. You want to set the courthouse on fire. It already burned once, maybe it never finished. A crash echoed behind them. The judge was coming. The tall shadow filled the hallway, dragging broken chains behind him. Marcus and Jenna ran into the transfer bay. An old prison van sat inside, burned black, half melted into the concrete floor. Its back doors hung open. Inside were 6 skeletons chained to the seats. Their heads turned toward Marcus. At the same time, Jenna whispered, "No." The skeletons opened their jaws. Firelight glowed inside their skulls. Marcus grabbed fuel cans and started pouring gasoline across the floor. Jenna found road flares and a fire axe. Her shoulder bled through her uniform, but her hands were steady. The judge entered the bay. Behind him came every dead thing in the courthouse. Officers, inmates, civilians, the fake child, the thing wearing Deputy Arnold, the thing wearing Phelps, all of them watching. Marcus stood in front of the burned van, flare in one hand. The judge spoke softly. You think fire kills what fire created? Marcus lit the flare. Red light filled the bay. No, Marcus said, but it makes it show its real face. He dropped the flare. The gasoline ignited. Flames raced across the floor in every direction. The dead things shrieked as fire crawled up their legs. The skeletons inside the van screamed, pulling at their chains. The judge's robe caught fire, but he did not burn. Instead, he grew. His back split open. Long black wings made of ash and bone unfolded behind him. The courthouse shook. Windows exploded upstairs. Outside, police sirens wailed louder. Jenna looked through a cracked bay window and saw backup units pulling into the lot. Officers were getting out, running toward the building. She grabbed a signal flare and smashed the window. Stay back, she screamed. Do not come in. But the officers couldn't hear her over the storm and sirens. The judge looked toward the flashing lights outside. His cracked mask tilted. Hungry. Then every dead thing in the bay ran for the exit. Marcus and Jenna moved first. Jenna swung the fire axe into the emergency release lever, dropping the heavy metal bay door halfway. Marcus grabbed a chain and pulled with everything he had. The door slammed lower. A burned inmate tried to crawl under it. Jenna crushed its skull with the axe. Marcus locked the chain around the lever. The dead were trapped inside. But so were they. The judge turned back toward them. Jenna looked at Marcus. Tell me you have another plan. Marcus looked at the burned prison van, then at the fuel tank beneath it. Get behind the concrete barrier. The judge charged. Marcus ran toward the van. The judge's hand slammed into his back, throwing him across the floor. Marcus rolled, ribs screaming, and landed beside the old transport vehicle. The judge grabbed him by the vest and lifted him into the air. Marcus saw inside the dark hole beneath the mask. He saw every officer the thing had taken. Every lost call. Every scream. Every face trapped inside it. Then he saw Deputy Arnold deep in the dark, still alive somehow, still screaming. Marcus pulled the flare from his belt. Jenna shouted, "Marcus." He jammed the flare into the van's fuel tank. For 1 second, nothing happened. The judge leaned close and whispered in the child's voice, "Unit 6, too late." Then the fuel tank exploded. The blast ripped through the transfer bay. Marcus flew backward. The judge vanished inside a wall of fire. The metal bay door blew outward, knocking down 3 backup officers outside. Flames shot into the rain. Glass rained across the parking lot. Jenna pulled Marcus behind the concrete barrier as burning debris crashed around them. For a moment, there was no sound except rain hitting fire. Then the judge walked out of the flames. Burning, broken, but still walking. His mask had fallen away. The thing underneath was not a man. It was a tower of blackened bones, chained together by melted handcuffs, with faces trapped between the ribs. Every face was screaming. It stepped toward the parking lot, toward backup, toward more uniforms, more voices, more bodies. Jenna picked up Marcus's empty pistol, then looked at her own empty gun. No bullets. Marcus could barely stand. The backup officers outside raised their weapons. "Get down," one shouted. Jenna screamed, "No bullets, fire." But panic took over. The officers opened fire. Bullets tore into the creature. Every shot only made it stronger. Every muzzle flash lit the rain. And with every flash, more dead shapes appeared around the parking lot. Marcus saw them crawling from the courthouse windows, dropping from the roof, rising from puddles like reflections coming alive. Jenna grabbed a shotgun from a fallen officer and checked it. 1 shell. She looked at the courthouse roof. The old clock tower still stood above the main hall. A massive rusted bell hung inside it. Below the bell was the old gas line feeding the courthouse heating system. Jenna understood at the same time Marcus did. The tower. Marcus nodded. They ran back toward the building as officers fought the dead things in the parking lot. The whole scene became a nightmare battlefield. Police lights flashed red and blue through smoke. Officers fired and retreated. Burned prisoners climbed over cruisers. Something wearing Deputy Arnold attacked a fire truck windshield, smashing its own head against the glass again and again until it broke through. Jenna and Marcus sprinted through the chaos, entered a side door, and climbed the courthouse stairs. The judge saw them. It screamed. The entire building answered. Walls cracked. Doors flew open. Dead hands reached from every room as they ran upward. Jenna fired the shotgun behind them, blasting a crawling corpse off the staircase. Now they had nothing. No bullets. No radio. No backup inside. Only the fire axe. They reached the clock tower. Rain whipped through the broken wooden beams. The bell hung above them, huge and black, swinging slightly in the storm. Below it, an old gas pipe ran along the wall. Marcus grabbed the axe and struck the pipe. Once, twice, the metal dented. Jenna looked down through the broken floorboards. The judge was climbing the outside of the tower. Its burning hands punched through the wood. Marcus swung again. The pipe cracked. Gas hissed into the air. Jenna coughed. "Marcus, hurry." The judge's hand burst through the floor and grabbed Jenna's ankle. She fell hard. Marcus grabbed her wrists as the creature pulled her toward the hole. Jenna screamed, kicking at the burning hand. Marcus swung the axe and chopped into the creature's wrist. Black fire sprayed out. The hand released. Jenna crawled back, gasping. The judge pulled itself into the tower. Its body filled the room. Faces screamed from its ribs. Deputy Arnold's face appeared on its chest. "Marcus," Arnold begged, "help me." Marcus raised the axe. "I'm sorry." He struck the bell chain. The first hit cracked the link. The judge lunged. Jenna threw herself into it, driving a broken beam through one of its ribs. The creature backhanded her into the wall. She collapsed, barely moving. Marcus screamed and swung the axe again. The chain snapped. The bell dropped. It crashed straight through the tower floor, smashing into the judge and dragging it downward. The creature fell through level after level, tearing the courthouse open as it went. Marcus grabbed Jenna and pulled her toward the stairs. Behind them, the cracked gas pipe sparked from falling metal. Marcus looked at Jenna. "Run!" They ran down the stairs as the courthouse came apart around them. The bell kept falling. Boom! Through courtroom B. Boom! Through the main hall. Boom! Into the basement. Then the gas ignited. The explosion lifted the entire courthouse off its foundation. Marcus and Jenna were blown through the front doors and into the mud outside. Fire swallowed the courthouse from the inside. The roof collapsed. The clock tower folded into the flames. The judge's scream rose above everything. Above the sirens. Above the storm. Above the burning wood and breaking stone. Then it stopped. The courthouse fell silent. Dawn came gray and cold. Firefighters surrounded the ruins. Officers stood in shock, covered in ash, unable to explain what they had seen. Some cried, some prayed, some stared at their own hands like they were no longer sure they were real. Marcus and Jenna were taken to the hospital. The official report called it a gas explosion. The missing officers were listed as deceased. The courthouse was demolished. Nobody spoke about the judge. Nobody spoke about the child's voice. Nobody spoke about the body cam footage. Because when Internal Affairs reviewed Marcus's camera, there was no footage of the attack. No burned prisoners. No judge. No dead officers walking. Only Marcus and Jenna entering the courthouse. Then 3 hours of black screen. But the audio remained. All of it. The screams. The gunshots. The judge's voice. And at the very end, after the explosion, after the fire, after everyone thought it was over, there was one final sound. A police radio crackling. Then Marcus's voice. But Marcus swore he never said it. Unit 6 requesting backup. A pause. Then the child whispered behind him. Court is in session again. 6 months later, the new county courthouse opened 10 miles away. On the first night, a janitor found something sitting on the judge's bench. An old white mask. Cracked down the middle. Still warm. And from the empty courtroom speakers, a voice whispered, "All rise."